Good morning and welcome to the Capitol Report. Joined by Pat McGuigan with CapitolBeatOK.com. As always, Pat, good to see you this morning.
Thanks.
Let's talk about the Treasurer's report that came out this past week. Ken Miller released that, and it was fairly upbeat in its look at the local economy. Why are we in such good shape right now?
Well, he used the term that Oklahoma's moving up and up and up. And all the data certainly seems to indicate, including state government revenues. But Miller's kind of interesting because he's an economist and he always tries to capture as much of the picture as he can, and he captures the whole government revenue picture for us in the press once a month. He said that the job market in Oklahoma is exceptional compared to the rest of the country, and that's true even outside of categories of the service market and others where pay is relatively modest. All the trends are positive. The way he put it is that every single number for Oklahoma has been positive for 12 months. Now, there was a slight uptick in unemployment, but that's expected because it's seasonal. It was very small. Bottom line, almost 4% below the national unemployment figures. On and on. The positive trends are real positive.
Is there any bad news?
There is. The bad news is what we have covered. Some people might think ad nauseum. You and I have talked about this several times in this segment, and that is the debt, the national debt ceiling, and the potential of default. Here's what the kind of things that Miller was saying: serious repercussions, disastrous repercussions for the economy and for recovery. The recovery, the way he puts it, is too fragile to handle, even in Oklahoma, actual default. To check my notes, interest rates, value of the dollar, and job growth would all be affected by a default. And of course, we only really have some control over a couple of those here in Oklahoma. We certainly can't control interest rates. That's going to be driven by national factors.
So you look into your crystal ball. How does this good news affect the state budget?
It's going to be real positive. Preston, Doerflinger, Miller was pointing to the Office of State Finance's estimates that there might be as much as $140 million go into the rainy day fund. That'll provide some cushion. The key question then becomes, in terms of a crystal ball, what will the legislature and the governor do with a comparatively robust year, assuming that stays on track? Will they right-size government? Or, as I've said somewhat critically before, will they continue to tinker, still doing conservative things, but not fundamentally fixing the size of government?
Let's talk about another popular issue right now. A lot of people are focused on the Casey Anthony trial in Florida. Along those lines, let's talk about judges. And judges in Oklahoma, fairly well paid. Is that how you'd say it?
The first look, you'd say just paid okay, because depending on the kind of judge they are, they come in somewhere in the 30s. Oklahoma State Supreme Court ranked 35th in the country in terms of compensation at $137,600 a year. Appellate judges, $130,410, 33rd in the country. Trial court judges, what you just alluded to, 38th in the country, $124,300. So there's the raw numbers.
So how do we make up? That's sort of modest pay. How do we make up for that gap?
Cost of living adjustment. The same as was with any of us. Anybody who's worked, especially in a professional setting outside of Oklahoma and then come home, which is true of a lot of people, or come here for the first time, they know that the cost of living is a lot lower here. In this case, the National Center of State Courts really does a good job, and they used respected, credible economic benchmarks. And their estimate is that basically lifts our judges to 20th, the upper half, maybe even the upper, close to the upper 1/3, compared to their peers around the country. And it is very interesting because states you would expect, like Massachusetts and New York, because of the cost of living being so much higher, even though their pay looks good on the surface, it actually drops them way down in the ranks.
Is there talk of maybe increasing pay of the judges to try and ensure that they can attract the best and brightest?
You hear that occasionally over the years. You're not hearing it right now because of the budget situation, number one. And number two, it's very important to remember judges probably should be well compensated. At the same time, this is a national phenomenon, the comparatively flat picture that we're seeing in terms of very small or no raises at all.
Interesting stuff. Thanks, Pat. You can read more about these and other topics at CapitolBeatOK.com. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.